are new developments in the case of the 2019 car crash in the UK that killed 19-year-old Harry Dunn. Interpol has issued a wanted notice for Anne Sacoolas. She's the wife of a U.S. diplomat who was charged last December in Dunn's death. CBS News spoke exclusively with Harry Dunn's mother, who said every day is painful without her son. She also had a message for Sacoolas.
Mrs. Sacoolas, if you're watching this message, please just agree to face our justice system, get back to the UK, try and allow our family and your family to move on from all of this mess and try to build a way forward, try to rebuild our lives without you going through the justice system. Not only my family, but your family are not going to be able to do that.
CBS News correspondent Imtiaz Tyab joins me now from London. Imtiaz, I know this involves the wife of a U.S. diplomat, but remind us again of the case. Why is this really so high profile and taken on such a huge force in the United Kingdom?
Yeah, hi, Rena. Good to talk to you. Well, you know what? We've been following this case from the very, very beginning. And what started as, frankly, a desperate appeal from a grieving parent to get some sort of clarity as to why an American, the wife of a U.S. intelligence officer living at a military base here in the UK, and who admitted to causing the accident that led to the death of their son, why she was allowed to leave the UK and go back to the US without facing any kind of legal proceeding. And what started as an appeal from a grieving family very quickly and very dramatically became this extraordinary campaign that has reached the highest levels of government, both here in Britain and in Washington. In fact, you'll remember back in October of last year, President Trump himself intervened in this case. And it was only just a few hours after Harry Dunn's parents made an appearance on CBS This Morning that they received a call from the White House inviting them to meet the president. Now, you may recall that President Trump rather sensationally tried to persuade them to meet with Anne Sacoolas, who, without the family's prior knowledge, was waiting for them in a nearby room, ready to meet. Now, Dunn's parents refused, saying that this was a publicity stunt and that the only way they would meet Anne Sacoolas is if she went back to the UK and faced the UK court. But since then, this really has been a very dramatic case, of course, involving the governments of the US and the UK, and it's really strained these ties. But this campaign, led by these parents, of course, attracting a huge amount of attention, Rena.
It really is international attention, that is. Imtiaz, I'm curious, what does this Interpol red notice mean for Anne Sacoolas?
Yeah, it's really interesting. Now, here's what we know. In an email CBS News obtained by the British police force that is investigating this case, they informed Harry Dunn's family that Anne Sacoolas was now, quote, wanted internationally. Now, the family say they were also told by police that the 42-year-old American mother of three was now under what's called an Interpol red notice. Now, this is essentially a request to law enforcement worldwide to locate and provisionally arrest a person pending extradition, meaning if Anne Sacoolas was to travel outside of the U.S., she could be arrested. Now, such requests are typically made by member countries, which both the US and the UK are, but a red notice, it should be made very clear, is not an international arrest warrant. Interpol cannot compel police in any country to arrest someone who is the subject of such a notice. So we do need to remind viewers here that here in the UK, prosecutors have already charged Anne Sacoolas with death by dangerous driving after that head-on collision with Harry Dunn's motorcycle. If convicted in a British court, she could face up to 14 years in prison. And now this red notice by Interpol, meaning that if she travels from the US, she could very well be arrested and possibly extradited to the UK to face those charges.
Wow, significant punishment there if she does follow through and have her day in court. I know CBS News spoke with the family representative for Harry Dunn. I want to play for you a little bit what he had to say.
The important thing this evening is that the authorities both in London and the United States, in Washington, and Mrs. Sacoolas all come together now to make sure that the right thing is done. She must come back now to face the justice system and do the right thing.
Imtiaz, what does this mean for the future of the case?
It's a very good question, Rena. And really, for Harry Dunn's parents, it means that their campaign for justice will continue. And, this really has been an extraordinary campaign. Here in the UK, Harry's parents are regular guests on high-profile news programs, and this case continues to put a lot of pressure on Prime Minister Boris Johnson's government. But as extraordinary as this campaign has been, quite frankly, unless Anne Sacoolas, who is reportedly a former U.S. intelligence official herself, unless she turns herself into the British authorities, it's extremely unlikely that the Trump administration will extradite her back to the UK. And we have learned something new in just the last few hours. A U.S. State Department spokeswoman has responded to this latest development, saying that the suspect, as she described it, Anne Sacoolas, had diplomatic immunity from any criminal jurisdiction, and that granting the UK's extradition request would set a, quote, extraordinarily troubling precedent, adding that the Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo's decision to decline the UK's request for extradition was, quote, final. But as we've seen time and again with this case, time and again with Harry's parents' sort of campaign for justice, this very likely isn't the end of that campaign. Rena.
Imtiaz Tyab coming to us from London. Imtiaz, thank you very much.